Welcome to this desktop virtualization video. What I'd like to do is contrast and compare the traditional desktop with the virtual desktop. So traditional v virtual. So I think there are a few interesting things that we can gain from this. So first off, let's take a look at the processes involved in creating an ordinary desktop for someone in an organization. So the first thing that happens is that we go and buy in these desktops from the likes of, I don't know, Dell or HP or whoever. And then often what happens is that we image those machines. So rather than using the OEM image of, Windows 7 or whatever on those PCs, we often put our own corporate image onto those devices. And it's not a single image, is it? It depends on where I've bought the machine from or what model of machine it is. There are lots of different images that I might want to apply to that particular device. Another thing that happens is that we secure that device. So we install the likes of antivirus tools, firewalls, maybe encryption. Then the most dangerous part is that we deploy that out to the user. So at this stage, IT lose control, and it's in the hands of the users to do with it what they will. Whilst the user has that machine, we need to manage it. And so what I mean here is provide help desk support, but also patches to the application set, or to the operating system, basically to keep that machine working well for the user. Hopefully, we're providing some form of backup. So should the user lose the device or the hard drive die, and at least we've got the data backed up for them. And then eventually we're going to retire that device. So dispose of it in some green fashion, clean the sensitive data off that machine, and then we're back into the cycle again of buying in a new machine, imaging it, securing it, deploying it, etc., etc. And this goes on over maybe typically 3 to 4 year life cycle of buying in devices, and then they get old, maybe not capable of running the latest operating systems, and so we dispose of those and buy in new devices. What does the user get in this scenario? Well, they get their PC or their laptop, whatever it happens to be. And that consists of the hardware of that machine, so the hard drives and displays and keyboards, etc. So the hardware, the operating system, for example, Windows 7, the application set that user needs. We may have had to build that uniquely for that particular user, but the apps that they need to use. And then the profile. And what I mean by the profile is the things that build up over time that make that PC personal to that user. So it's got their shortcuts, it's got their background as a screensaver, all those types of things, the things that personalize the PC for the user. Now, interestingly, when we look at costs here, typically the cost of buying the device itself is about 20% of the total cost of providing a desktop for a user over its lifetime. And I said that's about 3 to 4 years. Most of the costs, about 80% of the costs, are over here in the ongoing things that we need to do to keep that machine running and keep that user productive over time. So the patching, the updates, the backup, the ensuring it remains secure, all these things that we do on an ongoing basis, the help desk calls to keep that user productive. That's where most of the costs come from when it comes to providing a desktop for a user over a 3 to 4 year period, not the upfront 20% for the initial hardware. Okay, IT people tend to know this figure very well, but maybe not quite so familiar with the ongoing operational costs. It's an interesting point there. Now let's have a look at a virtual desktop. So when we virtualize a desktop and we do it well, we can actually get to a point where we have a single image of the operating system in the data center, and we use that single image for every user. So let's say a single image of Windows 7, for example. Then each of my key applications, rather than having a build of the application for, well, that's a terrible box. Try again. Rather than having a single application built for every user, we just build an application once. So again, I've mentioned this in another video, I tend to use Word and PowerPoint. So I build Word once or PowerPoint once and use that single image build for every user. And then if we can store in the data center the profile for each user, so the details that make the desktop personal for each user, if I can store those, then I'm in a very powerful position, because I can take those standard components, the OS, the standard builds of the applications, and then the user's particular profile, and create a virtual machine for them. So this might be, Patrick's virtual machine, because it has my profile on top. Okay, and then deliver that virtual machine out. So send out over the delivery network a screen painted this desktop to whatever device that user has. So I might be sitting here with a Mac, a thin client device, a tablet device, whatever it happens to be. I would get on that machine a screen representation of the desktop that's running in here. I mean, this might be running on a hypervisor. Okay, so this would be Patrick's virtual machine. Let's say it's Windows 7. I would see my Windows 7 desktop on the device. Although it's not running on this device, remember, it's actually running on some server infrastructure in the data center. I'm just seeing a screen paint of that desktop on my device. If there's someone else, let's say Bill. Bill's got a desktop. Then it would be Bill's profile that gets loaded in. Bill's set of applications, using the same builds of the applications and Bill's operating system underneath, which would be the same standard image. Okay, so from an IT perspective, I've got a lot less to manage here if I'm just managing single images. Let's contrast that with a traditional PC. Let's say I've got 500 users, for example. Yeah, so that means I've got 500 PCs out there on or under people's desks. So when I update Word, one of the applications, I have to update it on 500 devices. Or if I need to apply a patch to the operating system, I have 500 devices that I need to apply that patch to. And this is where the costs build up. This is where a lot of the 80% of the operational costs come from. It's having to maintain and update all these 500 machines. But if I take a virtual desktop approach over here, and I do it well, I can get to the point where I've got a single image of the OS, a single image of each of my key applications, and then a profile for each user. And I can dynamically assemble those components into a virtual machine when the user needs their desktop. So this is running in the data center, and deliver out to the user a screen paint of their desktop that's running in the data center. And remember, from a user's perspective, it looks like Windows 7 is running locally. So it looks local. Yeah, if you do desktop virtualization well, the user shouldn't really be able to tell the difference. To them, it's going to look like the desktop is running on their device. So this is one of the great benefits of desktop virtualization, is that I can drive down the costs in this area here, this 80% of costs which are operational, and I drive them down by having as much as possible the single image management. So I hope that's giving you a sense, when we compare traditional desktops to virtual desktops, where the efficiencies can come from when you take a virtual desktop approach. Okay, speak to you again in the next video.